Welcome, guys, to the second episode of Personality Pick. And we have a good one today. And our guest is Patrick from Combat Addict. He has his own MMA show. Let me do this and introduce the man myself.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
How you doing?
Dude, got a little whiskey here, a smoke. Get to talk to one of my favorite people in the industry. So let's, hey, there we go.
Yes, sir.
Cheers, brother. A little late night stream to break up the Thirsty Thursday. I like it.
Oh, yeah, we have to break up the Thursday, especially after this NFL game. I'm already a little bit loose, and I think this is the theme of this show. I think this is where it's going to end up going.
Didn't football start today or something like that?
Yeah, today was the first game of the season. It was a freaking.
Was it really though? Don't they always play? Isn't there was like a fake season or like a preseason before the real season?
Yeah, they do a preseason. It's like 4 games for each team. But yeah, obviously you don't get all the best players playing, so it's not as exciting. And
yeah, my girlfriend will be watching football. She'll be like, "Oh, there's a game on tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, football started." And then she's like, "Football starts Thursday." I'm like, "What's going on?" I know nothing about any sports, so besides fighting, that's about it.
Hey, sometimes that's all you need. There's people that just stick to the fighting, and oh man, they're a lot.
It's all that should be allowed to be played on TV. That's it.
You need variety, though. I feel like I can watch.
Yeah, you got jiu-jitsu, you got kickboxing, you got boxing. I'll even allow boxing.
You got all of it together.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, thanks for coming on.
Of course, man. A major downgrade to the show after Clint McNeil last night.
Don't even say that. Don't even say that, dude.
No, but it was cool to see Clint on there talking about stuff besides betting, and he's one of my favorite people. I credit 3 people on why I started YouTube, and it's Clint. His show is super entertaining, super informative. He's a great performer. Eric bets fights, an OG fan. We see eye to eye on a lot of things, and he's a great bettor as well. And then my guy, I had him last night, Uncle Wheezy. So those are really like my Mount Rushmore of YouTubers that got me going. So it was cool to see Clint on last week.
We share a couple of those. For me, it's lucrative. James is one of my
brilliant.
One of my brothers. He's the one that got me into the whole Twitter space too. Okay. There was one day I randomly joined his live stream on Instagram, and he was like, "Dude, do you have like a Twitter page or something?" I'm like, "No, but I've always wanted to start one." And he's who pushed me to like start this whole Wiz Bets thing.
Okay.
And since then, it was like early February, and I haven't looked back. So it's him, definitely Clint as well. I think he was my first MMA Twitter follow, if I remember correctly, and Uncle Wheezy, because I watch him and Brady.
Yeah. There's so many people I'm gonna have on my stream now that I'm doing a weekly, guest show as well. So I can't wait to reach out to some of these people and actually get to talk to them, not just on Twitter.
Yeah, there's a lot, and that's the whole angle for this show. It's like, okay, I can get a guest every week, or there might be episodes where I'm thinking of doing 2 guests and just make it a party.
Yeah, and it's fun because, my videos are long enough as everybody else's. We talk about the stats. You got to try to get as much information condensed, but there's no room to talk about anything else and just shoot the shit. So this is a really good idea.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, I mean, how did you get started with Twitter and YouTube in general? Was it just off of those 3 guys solely, or what motivated you or pushed you to actually pull the trigger and go ahead and start a page?
Yeah, it was. I'm not a new fan to MMA. It's been my entire life, quite literally. It's all I know, and it was a kind of like a family obsession as well. So, but the gambling part is something that was more new in the past few years. So then when I got into looking at other people's opinions, how they gamble, learning the math side of MMA and how to make money long term on it, that's when I came across some of these people. And after tracking my own bets successfully and being profitable like 2 years straight, I said, all right, let me just flick the camera on. I'm already doing, 20 hours of tape study a week, writing endless notes. Let me just flick the camera on. Maybe I can talk about it and maybe help some other people out. So that's how it got started. And it's become a really good way to keep me honest about my bets. And things have actually gotten a lot better as I've, put out content.
Dude, and I can touch on that a little bit too myself, because as kids, we all had our hobbies, whether it was a specific sport, a card game, something like that. And as you grow older, you lose interest for that kind of stuff. And I think the one hobby that a lot of us, at least my generation, had was watching WWE. And
sure. I'm a big pro wrestling fan too. Yep.
Oh yeah, 100%. And we all had that moment where we found out that this whole thing was fake, and we were like, "What? this whole time I thought they were just like body slamming each other, front flipping off of the top rope, and it was real. And
Right.
it turns out to be fake. And you find out that there's something that is real called the UFC and like all these
Sure.
other organizations. And you mix in the side of trying to make money with it and getting analytical. That's where it caught my attention too.
Mhm.
So man, and it's come a long way. We used
Well,
to have,
when I got started, there was nobody. This is part of why it took me a while. I probably would have been making content a lot earlier in my life if I would have known that there's a community of people that actually want to listen to that information. There really wasn't that when I was growing up. You know, it was people thought it was pro wrestling. You know, I talked to people about where I was going, what fights I was going to. I'm talking all the way through like elementary school, middle school, and everybody, you know, even the teachers would be like, "Oh, you're taking off of school to go to what, see pro wrestling?" Like, no, I'm going to see the UFC. This is what we do. It was just a family tradition for me and my mom. So now that there's actually like it's grown and now it's on Fox and it's on ESPN and it's on ABC now. This is just we got fights every week, not just every month. It's just complete heaven that there's people that want to talk about it nonstop because I never had that in my personal life. And that's something me and Eric Betts Fights always talks about. Like we didn't have anybody that just wanted to converse about MMA, you know. So you would see one guy wearing a tap out shirt in the bar, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I need to talk to this guy. He probably knows something. I can finally unleash all of this passion I've had for this sport, you know." But now it's just everybody every week, and that's part of why I got started. Wasn't to like grow my page, but just to talk with other knowledgeable people who really know what the hell is going on and just want to talk about fights all the time. So it's great.
so from what I understood is that you've been to a couple of events live. What
Probably
was
somewhere between just UFC, probably between 30 and 40 live. MMA in general, hundreds of amateur, just local stuff. It's something that I went to my first cage fight when I was 5 or 6. I was in first grade when I went to the first one. So my mom was a martial artist. She was a black belt in Taekwondo years ago. I kind of grew up in that environment in the gym. She made me do it, and she was obsessed with everything martial arts. All that was on TV was just, putting the tape of Jean-Claude Van Damme, kickboxer, blood sport, Lionheart, anything with, anything with Bruce Lee. There was a cardboard cutout of Bruce Lee. I probably thought that was Jesus for the first 8 years of my life in our apartment. You know what I mean? So we're watching Game of Death and The Way of the Warrior, all of these things. It was always martial arts. So naturally, when the UFC came out, that's what she was drawn to, and she got me into it. So it's all I've ever watched, and that's, you go to the tape study side of things, and like I mentioned, there was only fights every other month or every month when this thing got started back in the day. So what do you do on the off 4 weeks when there's no fights? You just rewatch the same ones over and over again. So that's how I got into kind of studying how fights play out and kind of where I got my knack for, predicting things as well.
Wow. So you did Taekwondo, and then did you do any other form of martial arts at all?
So, I did Taekwondo, and I liked it when I was a kid, and I was then forced into it. And she went to a very hardcore, like first generation Korean school. So it was very militarized. And I just didn't really have that kind of work ethic when I was a young kid. So and sometimes, you know how it is, whenever your parents are into something, it becomes kind of lame at a certain point. You know what I mean? No matter what it could be. And so I rebelled against that, ended up going into judo, dabbling in some boxing, and then actually made my way into an MMA gym when I was in early high school, but didn't really take to it. So a little bit of no-gi, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. I always like the striking side of things more, but by the time I was like 15, 16, kind of fell out of it, and I was just like, I'm just too small. So I got into lifting weights, and now I compete in powerlifting. I've been doing that for over a decade.
Oh, no way. What's your highest total that you've reached on a powerlifting?
Right now, 1660 is the highest one. I'm trying to get 1750, and that would qualify for the Arnold Classic. That's my next goal, is to do 1750. So
hit us with the numbers. What are the PRs?
The PRs right now, 419 on bench, 606 on the squat, and deadlift did 678 in a meet not too long ago. I've done 7 in the gym. So it's just about putting those together in the same day, and then you get the big total. So if things are feeling good, I'm feeling healthy these days. So it's just about avoiding injury for me.
Oh, wow. So wait, do you have a competition coming up soon?
No, I'm probably going to do one the end of the year and then one early spring. So I got nothing planned right now. I just got off of 2 this summer.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. And I know those powerlifting meets are the prep for them is really rigorous. Just the programming is very what's the word I'm looking for here? It's very strict because I used to powerlift for a while before.
Okay. Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Building. And what made me make the switch was just I always flip flop between it. Like there'd be a year where I'm like all into powerlifting and I'm just deadlift, squat, bench.
Yeah,
And then I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm starting to get a little husky. Let me try and go back to bodybuilding for a little bit. And I'll switch back to that, get leaner.
Yeah,
Keep
I'm playing that game right now because I want to compete and set the I want to get that mark at 1750 at 275. So I bounce around right now between like 270 and 280. So it's always a game of like eating a bunch and having to diet down just a little bit and trade that weight so I can make the 275, not be stuck at 308 with the big boys and get crushed. So that's what it's all about. So.
Yeah, you probably eat a ton of food before.
Yeah, I'm not naturally a big person, to be honest with you. Like I'm really, when I started lifting, I was barely 170. So it takes a lot to get that over time. But how does that kill your mobility? Because you're a kickboxer, and sometimes I go through a hard deadlift day or a squat day. I can barely move. You know what I mean? If like I get hit by a car, I can't imagine striking, and that's what's kept me away from going back to martial arts. Is I always say like. I'll get dinged up from injury or fall out of love with powerlifting for a month or so and then say, I need to get my way back into an MMA gym and revive that part that I love. But then another goal comes along powerlifting. I just have to dive headfirst into that first. How do you balance, your mobility with that kind of lifting?
It really kills the mobility if you're not practicing both at the same time. Because if you're powerlifting pretty seriously and you're trying to strike and kickbox, it gets really tough because you feel slow. You feel very sluggish at times, especially like a month or 2 months in to like heavy powerlifting, hardcore powerlifting. You feel like you've lost like a good 5 to 10% of your speed, and as you know, that's everything. That's everything when it comes to kickboxing and
kickboxing. Any striking is about range of motion, right? You need to have enough mobility to kick through your target, and if you don't have that, and you're all stiff. That power is just gone. So, but I'm always a big proponent of keeping cardio in. A lot of powerlifters not into that. They just want to move the weight and leave. And I get it, but I'm a big proponent of keeping the cardio going and just keeping your overall general preparedness up. And, that's always, I've been more of like an endurance guy than power. So it's interesting to have switched into just being a big, fat, sloppy powerlifter, but I got some goals I need to hit, but eventually I do plan to go back into martial arts, and I'm surrounded. I live right in between Rothwell MMA and Duke Rufus. So, I gotta
go see Clint at Rothwell.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Clint's dad. I'll go see him.
See his dad.
Yep.
Wait, how tall are you, Pat?
I'm about 6 foot, 6'1".
Okay, yeah. So you're a tall 276 or 275 from Yeah, because you see a lot of the powerlifters they're on the shorter side, whether it's like 5'9", 5'8".
Yeah, that way their bench presses are real nice, But if you got short arms, you can bench press a lot. But then the deadlifts, you got to pull it all the way up to your cock, so you're screwed there. Likewise, if you're good on the deadlift, you got long arms. Most people are long and athletic, then their bench is a little bit difficult. So it's always a balancing act, getting that total up. You know what I mean?
I always felt like it was tougher for me because I had longer limbs with a deadlift. Because I would have to squat all the way down just to even grab the bar.
Yeah, to flatten out your back, sometimes that becomes difficult when you got a longer torso.
Yeah, that was tough. And I realized it quick. And that's why I got stuck at 315 for deadlifts for the longest time until I started strictly training powerlifting for a good 4 or 5 months. And then I was able to get to that 4 plates, and that's where I tapped out. I was like, all right, I pulled 4 plates once or twice.
Oh, we'll get you past there, dude. You're athletic, dude. We'll get you past there. I've seen you. If you can generate that power in your hips to kick that bag the way you do on Twitter, you can deadlift 5 plates. I know you can.
It's up to the chat. Thank you for the support.
Hey.
Yeah, dude, the deadlifts kill me. But now I'm focusing more on the kickboxing side of things. I'm trying to compete on November 4th.
There you go. Yeah, I know you had that groin tweak. So now that that's healed, you got another date set, huh?
Thank God.
Nice.
Thank God. I needed it.
Awesome, dude. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And going into it, I'm just working on the footwork. I think that's the one thing that I need to work on most, in my opinion, is just focusing on the footwork and obviously just reminding myself, move your head. Because sometimes I can get pretty stale with the tall man defense, and I'm guilty of that.
Sure.
I literally criticized fighters over it for so long, watching tape this guy doesn't move their head, and I do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
It is almost funny when you, especially, you're deep into it, and I've had martial arts experience. I know how even the worst guy in the UFC roster is like the most talented guy in his, state or his city. You know what I mean? So it is funny as a handicapper. You do have to be critical of people and criticize them and say mean things that they suck at this and suck at this one. You know damn well they would, they're like the baddest motherfucker in their part of the world. So it is funny saying things like that when and you've been to the gym and you train with these guys like Vittori. So you know darn well how good these people are. So then to nitpick their form, when you're handicapping a fight, it's really funny to me when I stop and think about it.
Yeah, I know. That's the worst part.
Yep.
So wait, what was the first UFC event that you watched live, and what was the first one that you watched on TV?
The first one that I went to live was UFC 48. That was Kimo Leopoldo versus Ken Shamrock in the main event. And that was also the night Frank Mir broke Tim Sylvia's arm, took that belt at heavyweight. I think GSP was on the early prelims. He was like maybe first or second fight of the night. I remember him. So this is way back in the day. I was in 5th grade when I went to the first UFC event, UFC 48. Then basically we would go once or twice a year, every year following that, sometimes up to 3 times a year. I've gone to Vegas a lot of times without even booking a hotel. I'll just go see the fight, go to the McCarran Airport, come right back. Or I've taken trains when I was a kid and had no money. I would take a train from Chicago and go to Arizona, then kind of hitchhike to go to Vegas just to watch a fight. So it's been a long time of doing that, and that's just the thing I've been obsessed with. The first thing I saw on TV had to be, it was just the early UFCs because you would get them on tape. You wouldn't watch it live; you'd watch it on tape. So you go to the video store, the CD store, and you go to the seediest, darkest corner of the room, right? And that's where they have the Japanese hentai, the Playboy DVDs, and then in the corner, they have the VHS tapes with the UFC 1 through 15 or whatever they had. They'd have all kinds of other promotions, extreme cage fighting that, leagues you never even heard of, they used to put on tape and on DVD. So I would just get everything I could and just watch any kind of fight that I could. And that's what me and my mom would do. So she had all kinds of tapes of the UFC, and we would go see Vale Tudo, Pancrase, freestyle kickboxing, anything that we could see that was 2 people getting after it in the ring. That's what we would watch. So the first thing I remember seeing on TV was probably like watching Tank Abbott just crippling people. He was always the biggest influence,
No, I just figured out that there was a bar within like a 20-minute drive of me that has midget boxing, and I have to go.
I've seen midget pro wrestling before. It's awesome. The thing of beauty.
Dude, that's probably going to be the funniest experience that I'm ever going to have in my life, because just watching 2 midgets box in the middle of a bar while you're drunk.
Yeah, there was this bar. I knew the guy who he was trying to revitalize this bar, turn its image around, and he ended up having midget pro wrestling in the parking lot, which I don't know what image he was trying to reinvent, but it was awesome. It was like the seediest bar, seediest people, and me and my buddy went there and watched the makeshift ring in the middle of the parking lot, just drinking whiskey, watching these midgets. And then they said, they're like, all right, this midget. And they was like, and coming up next to the ring, crackhead Timmy. And this guy who's like 5'4" comes out. He's not even a midget. He's just like a short guy that like apparently is a crackhead. He goes in there and starts fucking all these midgets up. It was the funniest thing ever. We're like, this guy's not even a midget. He's just short. So watch out for the imposters, man. Sometimes it's just a short guy. He's not actually a midget.
Hey, 5'4" is borderline.
Oh, come on. You're going to talk about Chad and Hellinger this weekend like that?
You took it exactly where I was trying to go. Hey, they're tiny. They're tiny human beings. All right, I'll just call them tiny human beings from now on. Do you have a favorite fighter or a group of favorite fighters that you support no matter what, regardless? Not talking like betting side, but a couple of fighters that you feel like you have a soft spot for that you just love watching.
Well, luckily, after I got into gambling in mixed martial arts, which is only a few years ago, I've always been aware of all the betting odds and the lines like that. You can't get away from it. It's always a part of fighting. From the second 2 guys stepped in the octagon, it's always going to be who's going to win and how often does he win, putting money on it. That's just a part of the sport since the beginning of time. But all of my favorites have long since retired, so I never have to choose sides anymore. My favorites, the best ever, BJ Penn, Alistair Overeem, Vitor Belfort. Those are the 3 right there. Those guys were just the greatest of all time, and nobody could ever defeat them. BJ Penn, still, I hope he makes another run at it, man. He needs to stop running for governor and go get back in the octagon and win another fight.
His days are over.
No. He could go in there and still scrap. You get the right version of BJ Penn, where he's slapping himself and cussing at himself in the walkout and licking the blood off of his gloves. He'll beat anybody.
Dude, you should see Tito Ortiz. He's been trying to run for mayor of Huntington Beach, which is like a.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been trying to do that for the longest time. And
dude, who else would you? If I lived there, I'd be voting for him. I mean, who else would you want? The Huntington Beach bad boy, Tito Ortiz. Tank Abbott was from there too. They should run together.
I feel like everyone's fear is the Arnold fear when he ran for governor of California and did nothing.
Yeah, well,
I think that's the fear.
Another thing where it's like, this is just Arnold. Of course, we got to vote for him. We have no choice, you know.
We don't want to die to the Terminator.
Yeah, you got no choice.
Okay, so you named 3 former fighters. What about current favorite fighters? Do you have any
current favorites?
There could be one from each division if you want to, if that makes it easier.
That doesn't make it easier. I'm just trying to think of who I really back. Right now, Paulo Costa is one of the guys I really like a lot. Just his personality is so goofy, and I like. I've always got a soft spot. Of course, my favorite is Vitor, absolute GOAT, best champion of all time. And I see a little bit of Paulo Costa might be Vitor's like bastard son, so I'm a little bit partial to him.
Yeah, see, for me, I got into UFC watching. It was Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez, I believe.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's a good time. That's a good time to become a UFC fan for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that was the time where specialists started to form into more well-rounded fighters, where they knew everything. They're at least decent at wrestling. Or
I'd say that was the time where like everybody, like you can't survive unless you have a well-rounded. Every now and then there's the BJJ world champion that will come in and get a few wins and doesn't have the best striking, but even still their striking is pretty, yeah. But even then, like that guy, like it's serviceable enough. Like he's athletic enough to have good striking compared to back in the day when literally guys would have to pull guard. Otherwise they would not win the fight. So I think you're right about that. That's 2015, 2016. That's around the time when even the early prelims guys had to be well-rounded. You could not survive without it.
Yeah, and you'd only find these events played at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, spend a lot of time there, man. Spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, that's exactly where I watched that first fight. And
awesome.
I remember, wait, was it that one? I think there was John Jones on a card, actually. My bad. Was it John Jones and
was it around the same year though?
Yeah, it's around the same year or maybe like a year before. I'm drawing blanks here.
And Connor was on it too, or no? You're saying this is a whole different card?
I think this might be a whole different card.
Because I can't remember them being together. They usually would space them apart. And around that time, that was like around the time where John Jones was like getting all the DUIs and stuff like that, and he was canceling fights left and right.
Exactly. I'm pulling up his fight history right now because
he fought Cormier, then he had a long layoff, fought OSP. Fought Cormier again later on, but yeah, those were the times when his fights were like a year apart,
Yeah, that's where he was getting popped for all the sniff he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's weird how I can't even find a single. Oh, here it is. Never mind. All right.
I know what this is. This was the first one that you watched.
It was the first one that I watched on TV, at least live.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and it can't be there. I think
John
it was
Jones.
Rashad.
John Jones is great. Okay, really? In 2012? I remember that fight.
Yeah, I think it was Rashad Evans.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I remember
I remember Rashad Evans was another one of my favorites. I was rooting for him, and that's part of why I was never a big John Jones fan, is because he beat a lot of my favorite guys at 205. He beat everybody. He beat Shogun Hua, who I adored. Mm-hmm. He beat Rashad. He beat Quentin Jackson. He beat Machida, who I adored as well. That was always my mom's one of her favorite fighters. He just went through everybody. And then Vitor was the closest. Vitor was the guy who almost broke his arm, and John Jones showed that he was tough. He wasn't going to tap to that fully locked-in armbar. And, I thought right there and then that the fight was going to be one for Vitor. I was so excited, and then John Jones shatters my dreams once again. But I can't dispute, now looking back, you can't dispute that guy's the best fighter of all time,
shout out to my brother. He actually just reminded me. It was the $20 entry to watch him versus DC, that first fight.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's what it was. That's what it was. I'm
Yeah,
like,
where DC after the fight had the I think he had the genius game plan of like, all right, I was tired in round 3, so I took round 4 off, and I
yep.
thought I'd come back in round 5. Genius game plan.
Oh man, that was the worst game plan I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Only the first fight that I've watched.
I
So
remember Daniel Cormier coming up. He was very impressive to me in Strikeforce when he fought. He knocked out Antonio Silva, and that was really when I was like really made aware of how good Daniel Cormier was, at heavyweight. And then eventually, I think I was at his first fight when he came to the UFC. I think I was in Vegas for that one. Was his first fight? Was that against Dan Henderson? Because I remember that.
I don't
seeing
think
him.
it was Dan Henderson, because I think that would have been.
Was it him? I think because I remember I was there for him versus DC versus Dan Henderson, and I was there when Daniel beat Rumble Johnson too. I was at that event. I forgot what years those were.
UFC fight was. It was Frank Mir. Frank Mir.
Oh, okay. I wasn't at that one. I was at his next one then against Hendo.
It was Mir, Roy Nelson, Cummins, and then Dan Henderson.
Oh, okay. So he was there for a little bit. Yeah. That was the Hendo one is the one I was there for. That was the same night Dillashaw had that awesome upset over Renan Barao. Broke his like 10-year-long winning streak.
That was nuts. Yeah, I find myself watching these old UFC events and catching up on the history because I don't know too much about it since I started watching.
And that's something to do on the off weeks too, is just to watch all that stuff. I mean, it's just endless content. It's great. I still go back and watch everything nonstop whenever I'm bored. A lot of the early day stuff, and I've got tapes and DVDs of like even like the old school from like Hawaii, like Rumble on the Rock. They used to have a federation called Rumble on the Rock, where you'd see BJ Penn going against Takanori Gomi. Back in the day, you'd have the greatest of all times that didn't want to be in the UFC because back then you can make more money in Pride. You can make more money fighting elsewhere. You know, once they outlawed MMA on our broadcast in the way that France had it happen, the big organizations in Japan really took over. So a lot of the best fights happen there too. And luckily, since they acquired Pride, you can watch all that on Fight Pass now too. I don't have to get out my tapes anymore.
Mm-hmm. And they had the rules, like adjustable rules, where they can adjust it to each fighter if they wanted to.
Yeah,
so that is what appealed to a lot of fighters, especially I remember one day I was watching this Renzo Gracie fight. Oh no, Royce Gracie. And I think it was Pride, and they had a special rules fight for him. I can't seem to remember who it was against, but they had that special rules fight. It didn't end technically.
Yeah.
It had to end in like a finish or else.
Yep. They went crazy with their rules in Pride, and it was fun. It was all for the fans' sake, but also they like to favor some of their fighters at a certain point because we had a lot of wrestlers that came over and would just kill the Japanese because they allowed knees to the head, they allowed headbutts from bottom position, they allowed all of these things. So all of our wrestlers would just go there and just kill the Japanese. So they had to start tailoring rules like, all right, that American just won by kneeing our guy in the head on the ground. No more knees on this position, you know? So they would start doing things like that. That really damaged the career of like Mark Coleman, Mark Kerr, and a lot of those guys. So a lot of those rules are tailored to stop wrestlers from dominating.
There's one rule that I wanted to bring back. Bring back the soccer kicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
The soccer kicks. That was so.
I had a buddy who told me with a stone cold face. He was in the UFC one time, and he said, "Oh, man, there's nothing better than just feeling your foot just connect with somebody's skull."
Doing it standing up is one thing, but when they're on the floor and it's just like
you've already knocked them down. They're just like trying to brush off the cobwebs and regain their vision. Foot right to the face, a beautiful thing. They should bring that back for sure.
That's too dangerous now. That's for sure. Everyone's all.
Now's the time to bring back some of those rules because they stopped a lot of the things like that so that they could get UFC and MMA legitimized in the States, right? They wanted to be a legitimate thing that you could show on network, cable television first, then network television eventually as well. So they had to get rid of a lot of the brutal stuff like that. But now that it's established, it's on ESPN, we're making the rules now. Everybody likes it. You might as well bring back some of that savage shit that we love.
Well, now that ESPN's owned by Disney, I don't think they would like that at all. especially ruining the name of Disney. That's oh no, don't do that.
I forgot about that. That's true.
They don't want any of that on TV.
Hey, if it makes money, I'm sure they'll have no qualms about it. You know.
Man, did you see how they postponed or just canceled the press conference earlier today?
I did. I saw that whole thing. I watched a lot of that footage. It was just the reason being is because they don't want anything. This card is already weak as it is. This pay-per-view card in the eyes of selling hundreds of thousands. I think it's pretty weak. It's not going to do too well. So I think Dana is just like, look, I don't want any risk of anything being canceled on this card. If we lose one fight, our sales are tanking already more than they already are. So I think that's probably why he canceled it, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And it was just weird the way it happened. I was watching it. Holland and Rodriguez were speaking for a little bit. Nothing really crazy. Mm-hmm. And they're about to bring in Khamzat and Diaz. And out of nowhere, Dana's like, I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to cancel this press conference. Something happened backstage. And for the health and safety of everyone, I'm going to have to cancel it.
I guess Holland's team and I guess there wasn't much security back there backstage before the presser, so there wasn't a lot of like separation of these guys' posses. So everybody's got like a giant posse of 10 people with them. So I guess Holland's team was beefing with Khamzat or something like that. Once they finally broke that up, then Diaz's squad arrived and they started beefing with Khamzat. So it just became a whole deal. And Dana's just like, look, I don't want any dollies being thrown, and anybody, Conor McGregor style. But what I like about Dana White is I love Dana White. He's a Jesus of this sport. Say what you want about his personal life. He's done a lot for the game. But I just love when he gets in front of the camera with a straight face and says, in all my years of the business, nothing like this has ever happened. I'm just disappointed in this. It's like, dude, you know how much chaos has gone on? You had a bus full of fighters that half of them couldn't even fight with glass in their eyes because Conor McGregor threw a dolly through the window. You're going to tell me that this little scuffle where nothing happened backstage is the most horrible thing in the sport? Come on now.
That was probably the most chaotic thing that's happened in MMA till this date. That whole interaction, that whole thing.
I still can't believe it.
Yeah, because I remember it was Weili was on that bus, Khabib, Michael Chiesa, and
Rose Namajunas.
Rose.
She got really scared. Had to hug her therapy dog for like an hour after that. She couldn't fight. Who else? Ray Borg actually got like glass in his eye. Had to have surgery. So that actually like is really fucked up.
Thinking about it from his point of view, it's like, what the fuck did I do to deserve this?
Yeah, I know, right? So and nobody really seemed to care about that at all either. Like the UFC's like, well, so what? Once you start drawing as many pay-per-view buys as Conor, then you can start throwing dollies through bus windows too.
Yeah,
fair enough. That's why I like MMA, man. It's an equalizer. You know your hierarchy, you know your place, and you know what you can get away with if you perform and sell out.
Yeah, and he was the one fighter that I could say that put MMA on the map. He's the one that kind of started the mainstream.
Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell. Those were the guys like early on. Like Chuck Liddell really got a lot of people into it. Any boomer I talked to about the UFC back in the day, they might not even watch it, but they're like, "Oh, who's that guy with the blue shorts, and the mohawk?" And like Chuck Liddell, yeah, I used to like watching him fight, and they know nothing about mixed martial arts at all, but they know who the Iceman was. They know who Randy Couture is. So those were the guys I think early on that got the sport going. Anderson Silva probably really made it look like a legitimate martial art because of how great he was.
Yep.
GSP, of course, got some of the international fans that weren't in America. Then going on, I mean, even you got like Ronda Rousey was really, influential as well for the time being. And then, that just kind of blew up from there. Once 2011 hit and it was on Fox and people got to see it for free, then it really just blew up from there. It was just ongoing. You couldn't stop this train from tearing down the tracks.
There's no way. It's funny is my brother actually saw Chuck Liddell in Vegas at a club. I think it was Omnia.
Mm-hmm.
This was like after he was retired. I think this was like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
He told me he was hammered. Chuck Liddell was absolutely floored. Yeah. And he handed him a beer from how drunk he was. His security guard was like, "Hey, Chuck bought you this beer."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And he just couldn't drink anymore. So my brother is all like amped about that. That's one of his favorite Vegas stories to tell people. Yeah,
I've met a lot of those guys. I saw Chuck many times, but I never met him, and I was never close enough to meet him. But yeah, Forrest Griffin I've met before. There's a lot of people that would just be chilling around Mandalay Bay or the MGM Grand like fight week or after the fact, and it was just a place to be. I mean, I love Vegas. I've been there so many times. I kind of like partially grew up there just from that was the only spot you had to go there if you wanted to see the UFC. You know, there's I don't know, there's something I think after Paris, it's like 618 UFC events have taken place worldwide. I want to say almost 300 of them took place in Vegas. So you know, that's just the place where you had to go. I mean, that's why gambling and sports betting now, everybody's got it on their phone. It's becoming legal in a lot of states. It seems newer now, but in the UFC, gambling was always a big part of it. So always in the back of my mind as a kid, I kind of knew when I had a little extra, you know, change to rub together, I would start betting on it because that's just, you know, you have to walk through a mile of casino just to get to the venue at Mandalay Bay, MGM Grand, the Hard Rock. You know, that's just, that's where they trap you and try to get you to play slots and stuff. But you would see on the blackjack felt tables, you'd see the main event of the night. You'd see Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell on the felt. You'd see Brock Lesnar over him on the felt of the table. Like it's a part of Vegas culture for sure. And, you know, you can never separate the gambling from the UFC. It's forever always going to be bonded together. So might as well get into it. If you're good at it, you can make some money. It's a good part-time job.
Definitely. And a lot of my friends think I'm kind of crazy for gambling on UFC and like
sports. Well, you are crazy for doing all sports. I'll give you that. Like I'll see you post like MLB picks, soccer, whatever else, and all in the same day as though I'm like, how do you even remember? I can barely, with my schedule, I can barely get, you know, all of the fight footage I need to watch. I don't know how you do it with all the sports you do. It's very commendable.
See, for UFC, it's obviously you have the week to prepare, watching the tape and stuff. MLB, if you're not consistently in the game every day or at least every other day, it's going to be tough because you can find a team that's just riding a win streak. And no matter the odds, at some point it's lucrative to just continue riding that win streak. And for me, to be honest, a lot of people call this a minus EV bet, and I tend to agree it is a minus EV bet, but I've found an edge in it. The no runs in the first inning of games, I've felt like that's been my most profitable bet this year. On like in the MLB.
You're speaking Chinese to me at this point. I truly, I'm not exaggerating. I don't know even the rules of baseball or basketball or football. Like I get the gist, but baseball I know very little. Basketball probably even less, and football I have no idea what's going on. My girlfriend's a big college, like her whole family's a very big college football fans. I'll go there. I gotta ask. I'm a grown man. I gotta ask her like, why are they stopping here? What's this? You know. What's the down? I don't even know what a down is. A first down is. I don't know what these things are. You know, so I really don't. So I've gotten her into mixed martial arts, but in turn, I have to go to some of these games, and usually I'm just like, there's way too many people on the field. First of all, there should be like half the amount of people on a football field. The field should be about half the size, and the end zones should be big trenches that they jump into. Because I realize that a lot of the times, like a touchdown will finally happen. Finally, one of those motherfuckers gets the ball to the end zone. And then they got to decide, you know, the guy in the striped jersey's got to come and say, oh, I don't know if it was, let's watch the tape. Was it actually a touchdown? If the guy made it into the trench, just dig a big trench. If he makes it in there, it's a touchdown. And that's my critique for that. But, you know, I think that it should also just lose the ball and it should just be 1v1 and they just fight. That should be the sport.
That's the MMA background speaking. That's for sure.
That's it, man. That's all I care about. And that's all that should be played.
Only fighting. You fight on the field. You fight on the court. You fight.
Yeah. In the and then my girlfriend's like, "Oh, well, you would like hockey because they fight every now and then." I'm like, every now and then, just, you know, come on now. I'm gonna watch these guys figure skate around and then eventually get into a scuffle.
No, hockey is actually pretty legit if you like violence. There's a lot of violence in hockey. You see fights almost every game. You see people throwing sticks, punches. Like there's a freaking hockey game that I watched. It was in the playoffs last year. It was a full team brawl, and they were just going at it, and the ref just had to stand there until they were done fighting, until they just gave up.
I could get behind that.
The floor. So they were just swinging heavy right and left hooks until someone dropped.
I could get behind that. That's more my speed for sure.
Yeah, it's rare where you see full team brawls like that, though. That's for sure.
I like combat, just the pure. You know, you can be really into a football game or really into any sort of endeavor, but fighting is something different. You know this from being in the ring. It's just something different. Nothing else matters in that moment. You can even see that type of beauty even in like non-martial arts. You know, I used to be a bouncer at a dive bar and just watch people duke it out. And that's the most important thing to those two guys in that moment is what the fuck did you just say to me? And I got to protect my ego and I got to, you know, defend myself. And, you know, that's the most pure thing of all time. I would get caught up sitting at the bar watching these two guys, just like, oh man, what's he gonna do here? And then I realize I'm working. I gotta break it up. So I'm like, how's this gonna play out? And then I'm like, oh wait a second, I should probably do something about this. Huh?
Yeah, you've probably seen a lot of fights in your day working there.
Oh, it's the best,
especially at dive bars, because I feel like people get more drunk at dive bars than actual like bars or clubs.
And I worked at a bar where all of the guys that were starting fights were like, friends of the bar, friends of my boss. So I got to kick out the guy who did nothing wrong. So they were never really happy about that either. But it's the way it was, man. It was like the Wild West. But I enjoyed combat in all forms, man, no matter what it is.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. Let's go ahead and get into our pick'em for this weekend.
Oh, for the fights?
For the fights, we're gonna do a rapid fire pick'em. Let me go ahead and
sure.
put it on screen just so we could see the fight order. And
we're just doing straight winners.
Straight winners. If you want to give a method, a round, you can go for it. So first fight we have on the card is Darian Weeks versus Johan Lainez. I
got the underdog, Johan Lainez.
All right. Do you have a method, a round?
I think by knockout in round one.
I tend to agree there. I already have a bet placed on Johan Lainez. So
yeah, I got the money line on him for sure.
I hope your prediction comes through. Second fight on the card, Elise Reed versus Melissa Martinez. The fight everybody's been waiting for.
Right. Martinez, I got in this one. It's a very low confidence pick, but just because I haven't seen a flaw in Martinez, right? I've seen flaws in Elise Reed, and we're hoping that at her age she can come through and make some improvements on her 2.5-year-long layoff.
All right, yeah, I'm on the other side there, but no bet. To be honest, I can't go in here and eat that fight. Next, we got your boy, 5'4", Chad Hellinger versus Alatang Haley.
I got Alatang Haley in this one. Money line bet as well.
Okay. Do you trust the wrestling?
I do. Yeah. I mean, Chad's got that weakness where he does get taken down quite easily. Jesse Strader was able to take him down pretty easily. And Alatang Haley has not shown a lot of takedowns recently. He's been facing a lot of good guys, but he does mix in the wrestling if he's losing on the scorecards from strikes. So I trust him to get it done.
All right. I tend to agree. Next up, Danielle Wolf versus Norma Dumont.
It's a dicey one, man. I got Dumont. No bet on this fight, but you can't help but choose the woman with the way more pro MMA experience, a huge age advantage in her corner too. But if Danielle Wolf comes in here and they keep it striking, who knows what's going to happen? But I got to take Dumont on this one. And
the cooler last name, Danielle Wolf.
Yeah, I'm excited to see her fight though. I hope she wins. I hope she can shake up the blossoming women's featherweight division, and at 39 years old, make her run for the belt.
At the gorgeous record of 1-0.
Yes, exactly.
Next, we got Fat Collier against Fat Barnett.
Got to take Jake Collier. Back in my mind, I'll be rooting for Chris Barnett just because he's been through a lot of hell this year. His wife passed away earlier this year as well. He's been, he had his shining moment over Jean Vellante, but Jake Collier is no Jean Vellante. I think Collier should get this done. Barnett, not one of the worst guys in the roster, to be honest with you. But he's a fun character, so I'll be rooting for him.
Yeah, I have Collier in a parlay. So
all right, let's go. I'm rooting for Collier then. Let's go.
This should be a very boring fight. Jamie Pickett versus Dennis Tiuliulin.
It might be. I got Pickett, money line bet on Pickett. I'm not usually one to trust the guy, but he does do a lot of things well. Good body lock takedown. And he's just a more physically imposing guy. If he just survives the early part of the first round, he should win this fight.
I tend to agree. I haven't gone to the money line yet, but as long as he's able to get out of that first round, I think Tiuliulin's going to gas, and he's just going to.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things is the suspect gas tank.
Big time. This one should be fairly easy. I think we're both going to agree on this. Almeida versus the Pleasure Man, Turkulage.
Yeah, I mean, I got the under in this fight, actually. I'm not one to play under 1.5s, but I got Jelton Almeida winning for sure. I think it does go under. Both of these guys have a huge history of going under 1.5. And, Turkulage is kind of a wild man. He's almost like Johnny Walker, who's on the main card. He can finish the fight early. He's kind of a glass cannon of a guy so far, but he uses a lot of kind of muscling his opponents to the ground type of techniques instead of timing a level change. He tends to use his physicality at 6'4" to kind of make his opponents, bend to his will. I don't think that's on the table against Gelton Almeida. So I got to go Almeida in this one.
100%. I'm on that under 1.5 with you. I think a lot of the.
That's scary, man. I hate playing under 1.5s, and I got 2 of them on this card. I hate that.
I think we're on both of them, the same ones.
Probably.
Next up, we got a good one. I think this has fight of the night potential. Hakeem Dawodu versus Julian Erosa.
I got Hakeem Dawodu in this one. I think he's going to realize some of his potential from the World Series of fighting and maybe even find a finish here against Juicy J.
Yep, same. And that's the second fighter that I have parlayed with Fat Collier.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, I do agree. I think Dawodu has been a bit of a decision machine, but
he has been.
Erosa has a glass chin. And if Dawodu can't take him out, it's hard for me to see him taking anyone out in this roster.
Erosa is a very hit or miss guy. Like he'll win against guys that you wouldn't think he would. He gets a round 1 knockout over what's his face, Nate Landwehr, right? And then guys that he should beat, he doesn't. So I do think Dawodu has the clean Muay Thai to win this fight. Though I think he could get him out of there.
100%. And I think this is the fight that we're on the second under 1.5 and Johnny Walker and Ion Cutelaba.
I'm not on the under 1.5 in this fight. I am on Johnny Walker, though, to get a round 1 knockout. I sprinkled 1/5 of a unit on his round 1 knockout at plus 650 for Johnny Walker. I think he can get this one done. If Ian Cutelaba comes in here with that fighting with that kind of emotion and high energy that he tends to do, I think both of these guys are kind of extroverted individuals, and that crowd might actually play a factor in this one. I think Johnny Walker's going to feel kind of a little bit more loose and relaxed at home with a big crowd watching him dance around, and he gets a flying knee or he gets some elbows like he did on Ryan Spann. I think a round 1, he's had like 14 round 1 knockouts in his career, so I think he could do it again here.
I tend to agree with that round 1 knockout for Johnny Walker. I might get to the money line just in case this gets out of round 1.
Yes, yeah. He can do the smart thing and wrestle him and hold him down. I think the only guy we've seen do that to Johnny Walker was Nikita Krylov. So if he could copy that game plan, maybe he could stay safe. But you got the risk of Ian gassing out later in the fight the way he did against Jacoby as well. We'll see. I like both guys, though. As far as like favorite fighters you mentioned way earlier in the show, Johnny Walker's one of those guys. I like the guy a lot. It's hard to see him knocked out, but he's always in exciting fights. 6'6", Jack's Brazilian, dances his way to the cage. I like him a lot.
Yep, 100%. Next, we got Irene Aldana versus Macy Chiasson.
I'm very confident in Aldana in this one. I have 2 units on her money line. I don't think Macy Chiasson can, copy her game plan that she's had, where she just holds her against the cage and maybe gets a takedown. I see a lot of mistakes that Chiasson makes, but she gets away with it against girls like who does she beat? Like Shayna Young and Marion Renault. She can beat fighters like that. She's very big and physically intimidating, but and her you can't take anything away from that split decision win over Dumont. But Dumont looked awful in that fight. Aldana has got some power, especially in that left hook. I think she gets this job done.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm on the Aldana moneyline side. Haven't gone to the window yet. I'm waiting.
I wanted so bad to take that Aldana knockout at plus 450, but I kind of wanted a little bit more money on that knockout. But since she's gotten 2 of them already, that money line is or that prop bet is a little bit lower in value than you would get for a women's fight. If it was closer to like plus 600, plus 700, I would take it.
Yeah, no, see, I'm glad I've been waiting on this money line because it went all the way down from like minus 190, I believe. Now it's at minus 160 to minus 155.
For Aldana?
For Aldana. So
it's come back down because it opened like around minus 140, minus 150, where I got it a little bit early, and then it ballooned up. So it's coming back down, huh?
Yeah, it's back down to around that minus 160 range. So hopefully I can get minus 150 or 145 again. I doubt it. But
Chiasson's not going to win a kickboxing match at range. She's going to have to stall in the cage, and I've seen a lot of potential for Aldana to circle off the cage. She's a pretty strong girl, so I don't think Chiasson is ready for that.
100%, I agree. Next one, we have Kevin Holland against Daniel Rodriguez. I think this has been the talk of the Twitter scene this week.
This has been. It's fun because both guys are very good. I'm taking Kevin Holland. I got a money line bet on him. I think he does get this done inside the distance. You're going to have to choose between inside the distance or knockout, or, he's known to do a club and sub. So, right, like he did against Tim Means, he basically got the TKO, but locked up the choke. So I'm just taking the money line. I think he does get it done. He's got much better physical advantages in this fight, and a much better resume as well. So I'm trusting Kevin Holland here.
I agree with the Kevin Holland lean. Method wise, yeah, I can't seem to pinpoint which method I think he.
Right. It's very tough. You might as well just take the money. The money line's fair enough on a guy
Yeah,
with the experience he has. And D-Rod is very good. And I like Daniel Rodriguez a lot. But the guys he's been beating, not on the level of Holland. And the guy who gave him the most trouble was Nicholas Dalby. And Nicholas Dalby kind of fights sort of similarly at range with very unorthodox long striking. And that's how Kevin Holland wins his fights. That's what gave D-Rod trouble in his only loss. So that's what I'm basing it off of.
yeah, and I know me and you talked about this earlier in the DMs, but I actually I'm leaning towards the Holland decision.
Sure.
I think D-Rod is just really durable. I don't know if he's going to get the club and sub. He's not going to get any takedowns. I don't think so. I think D-Rod has good enough takedown defense to stop that.
Yeah. And we talked about how we probably would both want a better line on that decision prop because of all the finishing potential Holland has. You probably want that to be closer to plus 300 at least for Holland decision.
100%.
We didn't get that. So money line for me.
Very unfortunate. Next up, we got Li Jingliang against Tony Ferguson.
I'm taking Li Jingliang. Yeah, take it. Yeah, Tony looks like he's feeling himself, but he always is. I'm taking Li Jingliang here. I've been a big fan of Li for a while. I called him to knock out Muslim Salikov, and he did just that. And he's got a knack for knocking out guys that are very durable. So I'm not writing off the durability of Tony Ferguson. This could go all 3 rounds just because Tony got beaten by Gaethje and over accumulation over 5 rounds. He got knocked out by a beautiful front kick of Michael Chandler. I'm not writing off his durability just yet, but I do think Li Jingliang should get a finish in this fight.
To be honest, I think he gets that knockout. I'm probably going to be playing Jingliang inside the distance. That knockout.
I wonder what the scorecards equals no action is for Li Jingliang. That's what I played against Muslim Salikov, and it paid off. It was like a plus 100 Li Jingliang inside the distance scorecards no action. I played on that fight just in case he got outstruck or something like that over 3 rounds. But yeah, I like Li Jingliang a lot. I think there's a little bit of recency bias against him in a lot of the props just because he did get handled by Khamzat Chimaev. But other than that, he's a very good fighter with a knack for finishing guys that don't normally get finished. So it might happen again.
Yeah, and I just think that knockout was way too recent, and Tony Ferguson went stiff. He was out for a solid minute to a minute and a half. That's when you know it's a bad knockout.
He went like front teeth to the canvas. That was brutal.
Yeah. So I think Jingliang inside the distance, I believe right now is at plus 125 or plus 130. Sure. The scorecards, no decision. I haven't found the line yet, but it's probably going to be around that minus 160 tag if I were to guess.
Yeah, that's not horrible for chopping. If you assume that Tony's not going to knock out or choke out Li Jingliang, that's not a bad one to have. Just because if it goes to the scorecards, you get your money back.
Exactly. So I'll be shopping around for that one. And last but not least, the main event: Khamzat Chimaev against Nate Diaz. I think we all know who's going to win this one.
This is my other under 1.5 at plus money, plus 135. I mean, Khamzat's done that in all of his fights except for the Gilbert Burns one. So I don't see Nate Diaz being the thing that stops him from getting another under 1.5 here. If Nate Diaz does play around and showboat and doesn't engage the way he did it against Leon Edwards, that's what scares me because will Chimaev also play that game too and kind of be, weirded out by all the antics Diaz, does. Maybe it gets drug out. So I don't, the under 1.5 at plus money, I like it, but it still scares me doing under 1.5. But I think Chimaev should. I also have the Chimaev knockout prop in case that fails. So I think he ends up pounding out Nate Diaz by ground and pound until Nate Diaz just gives up.
I was talking to Gordo about this earlier. I would not be surprised if Nate Diaz walks into that cage, the bell rings, he taps on the floor, he walks out, just to say a big fuck you to the UFC for that one last time.
I mean, honestly, I got to go watch Gordo's content for this week and see what his thoughts are. I respect his opinion a lot, but my guy Mike at the Couch Warrior podcast, he put out a little ranting tweet earlier about, he's like, if I hear one more guy say that Diaz will walk out of the cage, it's like, that is a possibility. The Diaz brothers are known for no showing. Like I would be surprised if he makes it to the weigh-ins tomorrow. Nick Diaz did that against GSP. He just didn't show up fight week, and the fight was off. He did that for a BJJ expo as well. He just didn't show up the day of the fight. So the Diaz brothers are known for just not giving a fuck whatsoever. I think Nate does go into the cage, but I think he's gonna get finished pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the angle behind that was just the way he's been talking in these interviews this week, where he's like, "I didn't even want this fight. I don't want to fight. I don't care if I lose. Let him
Did
do
you
what he
see
wants."
Did you see the long form interview with Brett Okamoto, the ESPN one, where he sat down with him and talked?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very much. It sounded like he was like going through like a therapy session, didn't it?
Yeah,
it was very weird. He was just like Brett just was a very good interview. Just let him ramble, just let him mumble through his Diaz sort of dialect, and Diaz was having just a weird little moment to himself. It was compelling to listen to, just as a fan. I like the Diaz brothers, but at the same time, I like guys who win fights, so they mean nothing to me.
That's true. Well, we've reached the end, ladies and gentlemen. Pat, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure, and it's been really fun.
Man.
An episode, so you already know we're going to have you back on really soon.
Hey, I'm down. Anytime you hit me up, man, I'm down to talk fights with you. I'm going to have you on my show very, very soon.
Oh, yes.
I got I got Cody from Blood Money MMA Bets. Everybody go subscribe to him. He's just a couple people off of 1,000 subs, so good for him. He's grown a lot this year. He's on for the Sandhagen Song Yudong fight. After that, I want to have you on, Liz.
I'll be more than happy. More than happy.
Let's do it.
And to the chat, thank you for everyone commenting, and thank you for everyone that's going to view the show or is viewing it live. I really appreciate the support.
I can't believe I'm in the top 3 with Clint McLean from the Die Hard MMA podcast and Askar Moskarov.
Yeah, exactly. Third video on the channel.
Woo!
It's a big one. But everybody, please go ahead and subscribe to Pat. Follow him on Twitter. Pat, go ahead and shout yourself out. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, my name is Patrick. I'm obsessed with mixed martial arts. I am literally addicted to combat, as we've talked about today. That's how I got my name. It's just it's really a true compulsion for me. I have to watch fights. I have to watch violence. I run a YouTube page called Addicted to Combat, so go give me a follow there. I break down fights weekly. I have guests on weekly, and I release all of my bets for free. So I'm on a 5-fight win streak right now for the UFC, trying to make it 6 this weekend. And I'm also on Twitter at CombatAddict1. So I'll see you guys there. Let's talk fights.
Yes, sir. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next week. Cheers.